and welcome to the Bot Box. This week we're doing something different, a two-part episode. Those of you who remember Spawn and Scutter's episode ended up being a two-parter, but that was by mistake. Basically, when I wrote it, I forgot about anything other than Spawn and Scutter's main series fights, which was a big whoopsie on my part, and I did rectify with part 2. But this is different. This one is going to be a two-parter on purpose because Firestorm had 44 fights. If I do this in one go, the video is likely to be over an hour long. No fear, I have my limits. 50 minutes? Yeah, that's one thing. Over an hour? There's only so much my voice can handle. So, Firestorm has a red and yellow wedge-shaped bot armed with a front-hinged flipping arm and conveyor belts for getting robots onto the flipping arm and a spike. You don't hear anything about the spike. It's there. It won't see use. That made its debut in Series 3 of Robot Wars, landing in Heat O and drawing shark-themed Sawbot Crash and Asher, which I've talked about before. Firestorm drove straight into Crash and Asher, ramming it into a wall and turning Crash and Asher over. So Firestorm annoyed the house robots and Crash and Asher, safely through to round 2 to face Flipper Facet. The two bots met in the middle of the arena very early on, Firestorm managing to push Facet briefly. Facet tried to flip Firestorm but missed. Firestorm then pushed and drove underneath Facet, giving Facet another nudge before Facet flipped Firestorm. But Firestorm self-righted and drove over Facet before trying to flip Facet. It took 3 attempts, but Firestorm got Facet on its side and tangled with Matilda and, crucially, unable to self-right. Well, Firestorm tangled with Matilda, but the crucial part was Facet could not self-right from where it was, so it ended up spending quality time with the house robots, especially Sekilot. So Firestorm made the heat final where it faced furry Irish lifter Dietor, where Firestorm's team planned to fight madness with madness. Mad tactics for mad people, as they noted. Firestorm pushed Dietor around early on before pushing it over, basically turning Dietor upside down and nudging Dietor onto the flame pit before hitting dead metal. Dietor and Sekilot and Dietor in that order. Dietor also ended up on fire, but this is nothing new. This is normal for Dietor. Fire just goes with the territory. Firestorm got given a Dietor eye, some fur, and a shamrock, which got attached to Firestorm in subsequent fights in Series 3. In the series semi-finals, Firestorm first faced Grabber Pitbull, where it was revealed Firestorm's team also got given red and black furry codpieces, and they felt silly wearing them. Firestorm dodged Pitbull's jaws early on, but soon ended up in the grip of Pitbull. So Pitbull let Firestorm on a bit of a merry dance around the arena until Pitbull got buffeted by an arena spike. Now, for those who haven't seen Pitbull's episode, the main reason why Pitbull was in the series semi-finals in the first place was because one of their opponents got buffeted by an arena spike and turned over. Firestorm got free, hit Pitbull and pushed them around until Pitbull got flipped by the same arena spike that buffeted them earlier, which was also the same arena spike that got them through. Firestorm then backed off before it tried to annoy Sekilot. Cease got called twice because of Sekilot going after Pitbull after the first cease. Also, Pitbull broke Sekilot's hydraulic arm. Good on them. Next up for Firestorm was Lifterbot Panic Attack, the defending champions. The two robots danced around each other early on before Firestorm sent Panic Attack straight to Sergeant Bash. Firestorm lifted Panic Attack twice. The second time after Panic Attack got free, Panic Attack then went after Firestorm and Sergeant Bash. Firestorm too had a go at Sergeant Bash before pushing Panic Attack around, even with a bent piece of arm. In this case, there was the lifting arm, there's a bit underneath it and that got bent, or a bit in front of it and that got bent upwards. The lifting arm could still work, but it was just not fully attached to Firestorm. Panic Attack ducked behind Shunt. Surprise, surprise. I don't mean that sarcastically. Some more pushing and chasing ensued, and whilst Firestorm's back was turned, Panic Attack was caught by an arena spike. So Firestorm quickly scooped up Panic Attack and flipped them against the arena wall. Panic Attack recovered, but a chase ensued when the house robots got involved in when bumped into. Panic Attack then pushed Firestorm into Sir Kilowott, but Sir Kilowott went for Panic Attack as Firestorm escaped. The fight then went to Sergeant Bash's corner and Panic Attack lifted Firestorm. Firestorm escaped and hit Panic Attack, darting around as time ran out and the judges were called in. They ruled in favour of Firestorm, sending them through to the grand final, where they first faced Flipper Chaos 2. The Firestorm team's previous bot, Groundhog, which I've talked about, it overbounced a kilowatt, got mentioned. The two bots danced around each other early on and Chaos 2 missed an early flip. Chaos 2 then flipped Firestorm, sent it to the arena's edge, and flipped Firestorm out of the arena for the first ever out of the arena flip. Now, next up would have been Rammer Stegosaurus in the 3rd, 4th place playoff fight, but Stegosaurus, they faced horizontal spinner Hypnodisc, which I will mention later on, don't worry. And Stegosaurus took a lot of damage, so much that they couldn't fight, and the two teams basically decided to share 3rd place. So Firestorm returned for Series 4 as Firestorm 2, with an inverted paint job, no spike or belt. So basically in Series 3, the paint job was like this, so it's yellow at the front, red at the back. In Series 4, it's the other way around. But more importantly, no spike, no conveyor belts, and instead of the arm, they had a regular front-hinged flipping panel. After coming 3rd in Series 3, jointly, of course, Firestorm 2 was seeded 5th and landed in Heat C, where it drew Lifter the Morgue and Cutting Disc wielder Scar. Firestorm had been slightly overweight but fixed it ahead of the fight, in which they started off by going after Scar, but got attacked by the Morgue. Firestorm 2 escaped, drove into a wall and flipped Scar again, and flipped the Morgue, leaving it for dead by an arena wall. The 5th seeds then went after Scar, leaving them by an arena wall, but after the Morgue got put on its wheels, it went after Firestorm 2 just as Cease was called. Firestorm 2 and Scar went through anyway, because the Morgue had been immobile too long. Firestorm next faced Flipper Bolt from the blue. The two bots danced around each other early on, bumping into each other. Bolt from the blue missed with an attempted flip and failed to flip the 5th seeds 3 more times. Firestorm 2 drove over Bolt from the blue multiple times, which was the cue for another missed flip. The pit opened and the two bots danced around each other again. Firestorm 2 briefly sat on Bolt from the blue, and Bolt from the blue pushed Firestorm 2, but the 5th seeds escaped and drove Bolt from the blue again. As time ran out and the judges were called in, Firestorm 2 pushed Bolt from the blue before the two bots danced around each other again. The judges ruled in favour of Firestorm 2. So, in the heat final, Firestorm 2 faced the Morgue. which was reinstated after Scar had to withdraw. They won their second fight, hence they got to fight Firestorm again. Firestorm 2's team noted with the look that the Morg's team were having, Firestorm 2 might end up in the pit. Firestorm 2 went after the Morg early on, pushing them and trying to flip them. The Morg pushed Firestorm 2 briefly before the 5th seeds pushed and flipped the Morg, though the Morg landed on its wheels. And Firestorm 2 did so again, though when trying to flip the Morg against the arena wall, it failed. The Morg pushed Firestorm 2, Firestorm 2 pushed the Morg, and the pit opened. Firestorm 2 pushed the Morg to the pit and wedged them there, and Firestorm 2 accidentally drove in the pit. Oops. Dirty Team Firestorm. But the judges were called in. The Morg were technically in the pit, and Firestorm 2 were ruled the winners, sending them through to the series semi-finals. Time for a Sumo Basho versus Shunt Diversion, which actually aired a couple of episodes earlier. Oops. Shunt pushed Firestorm 2 off the sumo ring in 4.21 seconds. Okay, that was pants. Pinball, anyone? Firestorm 2 knocked a bunch of barrels down early on before bumping into a bunch of house robots. Firestorm 2 then went for the multi-ball release, hit the 75-point target, opened the car door but ended up by tangling with Matilda and Dead Metal in that order. They got 135 points and ended up in joint 7th, joint with Hypnodisc. So, not so pants. Respectable. Mid-table. Good. On to the series semi-finals, where Firestorm 2 faced Axebot Dominator 2, which I suspect when that episode comes around probably will be a two-parter as well. Firestorm 2 pushed Dominator 2 early on before Dominator 2 tried and failed to hit them with their axe. So Firestorm 2 flipped Dominator 2, but the Axebot self-righted and axed Firestorm 2's flipper. Firestorm 2 had a tricky time extracting that axe. Well, actually no, Dominator 2 had a tricky time extracting that axe. What even did I write? There's a lot of twos in this fight, I am sorry. There were a lot of twos in that episode. Anyway, Firestorm 2 escaped and flipped Dominator 2 again, and inadvertently righted them. I know that feeling. Dominator 2 missed the 5th seed with some more axe blows, but landed another blow. Firestorm 2 escaped, flipped and righted Dominator 2. Why? But soon flipped and pushed Dominator 2 into a wall. Dominator 2 just got free as time ran out and the judges were called in. They ruled, only just, in favour of Dominator 2. So, time for some tag team terror. Pray for the rules, and I mean now, not later. Firestorm 2 teamed up with Cutting Disc and Chainsaw Wielder Scorpion. Why? I don't know. First up for them was Crusher, Plunderbird 4 and Flipper Bigger Brother. Scorpion and Bigger Brother went out first. Bigger Brother flipped Scorpion at once, so Firestorm 2 went out to rescue Scorpion. Bigger Brother tagged Plunderbird 4, which quickly got a hold of Scorpion. Firestorm 2 went after Plunderbird 4, but this was against the rules. So the ref bot chased Firestorm 2 away. Where were you when we needed you in later battles of the tag team persuasion, ref bot? Come on. Not that it helped much. Firestorm 2 went after Scorpion and Plunderbird 4 in that order, and all hell broke loose, so we can say goodbye to these. That was rubbish. I don't think there were enough ref bots in existence to keep all that chaos in order. The house robots took their collective oars in. Firestorm 2 went after Bigger Brother and used the flipper to send Bigger Brother into a wall. Firestorm 2's flipper, not Bigger Brother's. Plunderbird 4 were pretty much toast. Firestorm 2 went for Scorpion again, leaving Scorpions to come Plunderbird 4. Scorpion got released, so Firestorm 2 sent Plunderbird 4 to Sergeant Bash. After that, Firestorm 2 went for Bigger Brother, but when the action took both bots to Matilda, Firestorm 2 got flipped, but it self-righted and went for Bigger Brother, which just pushed Firestorm 2 around. Scorpion ended up in trouble, getting roasted. Firestorm was being pushed around by Bigger Brother as time ran out and the judges recording. They ruled in favour of Firestorm 2 and Scorpion. Next up in the final was not Firestorm, they didn't fight themselves. 101 and Spike and Cutting Disc Bot King B3. They're the rivals. And Firestorm 2's team had to fix their bot. Scorpion and King B3 were out first, and King B3 pushed Scorpion around. It was just King B3 pushing, ramming Scorpion until 101 entered the frame, and Firestorm 2 followed. Chaos ensues. Scorpion ended up with Dead Metal, and 101 went for Firestorm 2. Firestorm went for King B3, at least until Firestorm 2 stopped, as did Scorpion apparently, and 101 and King B3 went for each other. They are rivals after all. Couldn't resist having a go at each other. Of course, when Scorpion got free, it turned out it was actually still alive, so King B3 went for it. 101 joined in after annoying the house robots. Once Scorpion went down, King B3 and 101 fought each other. So that meant that Firestorm 2 and Scorpion came second. So on to Robot Wars Extreme, where Firestorm 3, up to 3, was back to its regular colour scheme, so this way round. Yellow at the front, red at the back. And the weight limit had been increased, so that meant thicker armour. First up was the All-Stars tournament, where they faced Panic Attack. Also, Firestorm had a new team member. Previously they just had 2 people, now up to 3. Firestorm 3 flipped Panic Attack right at the start before sending Panic Attack to an arena wall, putting the Series 2 champions in a position from which they couldn't self-right, and left them there. Firestorm 3 managed to drive underneath Panic Attack and dodge the waiting house robots. Panic Attack was counted out and cease was called very quickly. So, you think we're going to get some more All-Stars? No, it is time for a vengeance type diversion against Deitor. What's the grudge here? Oh geez, something said in the Robot Wars magazine. Great! A pushing war started early on. Firestorm 3 having a hard time trying to flip Deitor. It wasn't long before Firestorm 3 flipped Deitor and the Irish bot's eyes fell off. Firestorm 3 righted Deitor, and once Deitor drove over the flame pit, Firestorm 3 flipped Deitor again. Also, Deitor was on fire. Again. Like I said, this goes with the territory. Deitor on fire, it's a thing. Firestorm 3 left Deitor be as it was counted out. Firestorm 3 attacked one last time after Deitor was righted. Okay, Back to the All-Stars, this time against Lifter and Spinner Wild Thing. Firestorm 3 flipped Wild Thing early on, but Wild Thing self-righted that Lifter could act as a self-righter. And we dead metal. Firestorm, that is. Wild Thing then pushed Firestorm 3 into a wall. Once Firestorm 3 got free, great. The two bots danced around each other, Wild Thing removing some of the red and black polka dot fur attached to Firestorm 3. Yes, I don't wonder where that came from. Firestorm 3 flipped Wild Thing again. Once again, Wild Thing self-righted and Firestorm 3 missed with a flip attempt. Wild Thing pushed Firestorm 3 around the arena. Then Wild Thing ended up in the embrace of dead metal. You don't want to get hooked by dead metal. Firestorm 3 escaped after Shunt rocked up. Once Wild Thing got free, the two bots danced around each other again. Firestorm 3 managing to get underneath Wild Thing. Firestorm 3 let Wild Thing go, but next time they flipped Wild Thing near the arena wall where it couldn't self-right. So Wild Thing got counted out and pitted. So Firestorm went after Shunt and Dead Metal. Next up, in the semis of the All-Stars, was Crusher Razor. It wasn't long before Razor put a hole in Firestorm 3's flipper. Firestorm 3 used the flipper to try and shake Razor off, but it didn't work, so Firestorm pushed Razor around the arena instead. Razor then lifted and dropped Firestorm 3 before putting a second hole in Firestorm 3. A third hole followed and Razor held Firestorm 3 before going to put a fourth hole in Firestorm 3. Firestorm 3 defiantly firing the flipper, but Razor took Firestorm 3 to a corner where Shunt and Matilda attacked as time ran out and the judges were called in. They ruled in favour of Razor. So, that leaves the second World Championships, where Firestorm 3, representing the UK, drew grabby American Jawbot Joezilla, Dutch Axebot Neat Machine, and Swedish full-body spinner Whirlpool 70. W70 for short. Firestorm 3 initially tried to deal with Whirlpool 70, but Joezilla had the same idea, so Firestorm 3 tried and failed to flip Joezilla before sending the American bot to Sakilot. Mostly. After a bit more pushing, Firestorm 3 went after Neat Machine before returning to Joezilla. That attack didn't last long. Firestorm 3 and Joezilla went after Neat Machine, and Firestorm 3 managed to flip the Dutch bot over. Joezilla then pushed Firestorm 3 to a corner and Whirlpool 70, so Firestorm flipped Whirlpool 70 onto its side. And right into Sakilot as well. When Firestorm 3 was back in focus, because it went out of focus for the count out of Neat Machine and then Whirlpool 70, Joezilla was pushing Firestorm 3, using Firestorm 3 to open the pit. Firestorm got away, but as time ran out and the judges were called in, Drillzilla had caught Firestorm and pushed it into a corner. The judges ruled in favour of Joezilla. So, now on to Series 5 of Robot Wars, where seated 7th, Firestorm 3 landed in Heat D and drew Drillbot B Capitator. Yes, that is a pun. B Capitator tried to evade Firestorm early on, but the 7th seeds caught them and tried to turn B Capitator over. B Capitator landed on its wheels. Firestorm 3 caught B Capitator and flipped it, but did so way too close to Matilda. The result? An upside down B Capitator, which from Firestorm's perspective is good, but because Matilda's new flywheel tail got in the way, it also resulted in a busted Firestorm 3's flipper. As several wise people have said, Whoops. Decapitator, unable to self-right, got counted out and cooked and then pitted, in that order. Firestorm 3 stayed out of it. I mean, they had a busted flipper. Next up was left up the chrome water and time to fix the aforementioned busted flipper. Firestorm 3 flipped the chrome lot twice early on, landing the chrome lot on its side. Firestorm 3 then sent the chrome lot to a corner and left it, but ended up tangling with dead metal as the chrome lot got counted out. Firestorm 3 then stayed away from the house robots when they pitted the chrome lot. Next up was in the heat final was Flipper stroke Clamp Bot or Blamp Bot Reactor 2. Reactor 2 tried to flip Firestorm 3 early on but failed. The 7th seeds had more luck, flipping Reactor 3 times. The first time Reactor 2 rolled over, the second time Firestorm 3 righted Reactor 2, and the third time Firestorm 3 got Reactor on its side against the wall. Firestorm 3 managed to right Reactor 2, so the 7th seeds kept flipping Reactor 2 until they got Reactor 2 out of the arena. That was the first time a front-hinged flipper flipped a robot out of the arena. And spoiler alert, Firestorm 3, or Firestorm, any kind of Firestorm, is the only robot ever to flip another robot out of the arena whilst being in the possession of a front-hinged flipper. All the others, either rear-hinged flippers, vertical flywheels, or in one case, rammed out by brute force alone. We'll get to Storm 2 in time. Next up in the series semi-finals was third seeded horizontal spinner Hypnodisc. See, I told you I'd get to them. The two danced around each other briefly, but as soon as Hypnodisc hit Firestorm 3, the 7th seeds came to a stop. Right next to the flame pit as well. Another hit confirmed that Firestorm 3 was toast. So after a nudge, Hypnodisc opened the pit, Firestorm 3 got counted out and flew away a floor flipper, then got pitted. Reason for them losing so quickly? The link got dislodged. But all was not lost. There was the losers melee against 6 seeds Panic Attack and 10th seeded flipper Really Big Cheese. Oh, and they're all yellow! For those of you who don't know, yellow is my favourite colour. Panic Attack and Firestorm 3 went for Really Big Cheese early on, deciding it was a cheddar idea to take out the 10th seeds and not to be sent into orbit by the 10th seeds a la Axel. Really Big Cheese flipped Panic Attack and Firestorm 3 pushed Really Big Cheese around, eventually sending Really Big Cheese onto the side wall and looking like they were going to be removing the 10th seed from the arena. Talk about hoisting a robot on its own petard. Instead, Really Big Cheese got wedged onto an arena angle grinder, or should that be cheese wedged? And couldn't escape. And even when freed by the ref bot, Really Big Cheese was barely moving. The same could be true of Panic Attack, except without the ref bot's involvement. Panic Attack had been chilling out by the pit release tyre, and once Firestorm 3 opened the pit, the 6th seeds woke up, and a chase, a push, and attempted flip followed. Meanwhile, Really Big Cheese got counted out. Panic Attack and Firestorm 3 ended up with dead metal, and as time ran out and the judges were called in, Panic Attack lifted Firestorm 3. The judges, however, ruled in favour of Firestorm 3. Next up was second-seeded a pyramid-shaped cutting disc wielder, Pussycat, which, when asked who they'd rather have in the second round of the semi-finals, between Hypnodisc Dominator 2 and Pussycat, Team Firestorm's preferred opponent was Pussycat. Firestorm 3 managed to drive underneath Pussycat multiple times early on, pushing Pussycat into walls and occasionally tipping the second seeds. Of course, Pussycat managed to drive on anyway because it always lands on its feet. Wheels. Then Firestorm 3 got a couple of flips in before pushing Pussycat around, ultimately into the pit release and then shunt. When Firestorm 3 ended up there a second time, it got axed and looked out. But after taking one hit from Pussycat, Firestorm 3 got away. However, Pussycat hit Firestorm 3 some more as time ran out and the judges were called in. However, these attacks came too late for Pussycat and the judges ruled in favour, once again, of Firestorm 3. So, back in the grand final, Firestorm 3 faced Razor, the 4th seeds. Razor put a hole in Firestorm 3 early on. Air second followed right on Firestorm 3's flipper mechanism, which left it stuck open. The Firestorm's flipper hadn't quite gone in properly since the unfortunate with Matilda, but this time it was really stuck out. In fact, it stayed stuck open until Razor's next attack. In between time, Razor opened the pit, closed the 7th seed's flipper as far as it could get closed at that point. Then Razor let go. Firestorm 3 pushed Razor into an arena angle grinder. Like I said, flipper unable to close fully. Firestorm 3 escaped a Razor attack, and Razor stayed put for so long they were in danger of being counted out. But Razor got free and put another hole in Firestorm 3, dragging the 7th seeds over the corner of the pit. No one was in any danger of going in. Razor let go of Firestorm 3 once again, which ran off only to get caught by Razor again. So Firestorm 3 pushed Razor straight into Sergeant Bash. Eventually, after more pushing, Firestorm 3 got free and went after Razor, only to get another hole for its trouble as time ran out and the judges were called in. They ruled in favour of Razor after inspecting the robots for damage and out and out saying that it was the hardest decision they'd ever made. So, you know what this means? 3rd, 4th place playoff. And unlike in Series 3 and 4, this time the 3rd, 4th place playoff actually happened. And it was against Hypnodisc again. And due to Razor's damage and having no spares for the flipper mechanism, Firestorm 3 went in weaponless. But they used the extra weight from not having the weapon to add more armour on so they could be better protected against Hypnodisc. Sensible move. Yes, they sacrificed damage points, but they were going to take less damage. Firestorm 3 went for Hypnodisc right away, throwing caution straight into the wind. Firestorm 3 took hits from Hypnodisc and drove into Circle a lot. Firestorm 3, that is, not Hypnodisc, before opening the pit, scooping up Hypnodisc and driving both of them into the pit. They hit the pit floor at the same time. The judges, as a result, asked for a rematch, and Team Firestorm were perfectly happy to have the rematch. Hypnodisc, however, they were not so happy. In this case, they would have been perfectly happy to do the rematch if Hypnodisc was in any fit state to fight, which it wasn't. Basically, Hypnodisc hit the pit disc first, and even before hitting the pit disc first, they'd taken some internal trauma. There was no way they were going to be able to be ready for a fight. So they pulled out, which meant third place went to Firestorm 3. Now, obviously, this is the point where I have to say this is the end of part 1. I'd be going on to Series 6 if Firestorm didn't have so many fights, but we're already at 35 minutes, nearly 36. So, we're taking a break now. I will be back tomorrow for part 2. I can make promises. More out of the arena flips, more axes, my thoughts on Firestorm, next week's robot, and best of all, Firestorm 4, or in one fight, causing a yell of "Timber!" from the commentator. Till tomorrow, Callison244, out.